And I'm going to share a link here that I put my slides and the GitHub information on the study studio. So anyone who needs access to the material today can retrieve this information there. So I'm Diane Woodbridge. I'm an associate professor in the Master in Data Science program at the University of San Francisco and also co-founder at studystudio.ai. And today we're going to talk about how we can use Google Cloud Computing, GCP, to teach Databricks. So today, the sequence of the talk will be why I chose to use GCP with Databricks, and then share about how we can get a GCP education credits and how we can redeem those credits. I'm going to provide this in a faculty perspective and also students' perspective as well. And then we're going to talk about how we can launch Databricks on GCP and share an example project that I created for this demo. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump on, and I'd love to answer any questions if you have any. Okay. So maybe prior to using a GCP, and if you are using AWS, you might have some troubles if you are like me. So we've been using AWS for almost a decade prior to using a GCP. It became really hard to get AWS education credits. First, you might have to have an AWS associate that assigned to your school. And then I have to ask all my students to fill out this Google spreadsheets with their name and AWS account ID. And then I contact my associate to give a credit, and they promise you that the students will receive a credit assigned to their account. But there always been a hiccup that maybe my associate is on vacation or someone on the pipeline forgot to apply it and students do not have the credit, or maybe during the process of copying and pasting their AWS account, students made mistake, maybe by copying it and placing it to the spreadsheets. Like if the ID start with a 0, that's gone and students don't have a credit. And I have to, again, reach out to my associate to get the credit. And many times students do not have a credit by the end of the class. So that was my one hardship, that I spent so much time for administrating this process. But for GCP, that you will see the getting and also distributing education credit is like super easy. And the second one is managing projects, especially if you're using cloud for your research and multiple courses. My experience, I will start with AWS again, was that everything is on a one level, that I have this like one project that uses object storage and the relational Databricks and Databricks, and then the second project uses another S3 bucket, EC2, and Airflow. And if I forgot to tag it correctly, I don't know what this security rule is for, or this network is for, and then it has all different regions, and then I don't know whether this US West 2 is related to my project 1 or 2. So I ended up paying money that I don't know what it is related to. And one time I tried to delete one service account, and that was related to my research project. So still I'm paying $25 per month. Don't know where the money is going out in my AWS account, which is a bummer. But for the Google Cloud Computing, every component that you're launching has to belong to a project. That means that if you are killing that project, all the components, such as your object storage or your relational database or compute resources associated with the Databricks or whatever components, will be deleted together. So I found that for my budget alignment, it was much easy, and then project management has been much easier for using GCP. Any questions so far? Then I'm going to talk about how you can get GCP education credit. So first, you need to go and fill out the form. You can simply search on Google that GCP education credit, then the URL will pop up, which is edu.google.com until all_US programs/credit teaching. And then you will see this form here. You need to enter your information, such as your name, your email, and then your institution information, and then your faculty directory URL, and your course name, start date, and how you're going to use GCP. I encourage not too much mention about it's only for Databricks. Sometimes those computing providers wants to explore their cloud computing resources as well, but you can provide how you can use some components at the GCP and then Databricks all together, not just only mentioning about the Databricks. And then your course URL, I provide course catalog because I don't have the specific URL other than the Canvas URL, which that the Google cannot access to. And then the one important thing is that the domain for your students, which might be your school email. And then in our case, some are using usfca.edu, some are using dons.usfca.edu. So you may want to provide multiple email extension that your students are using. And then provide how many students that is going to attend your class. I tend to give a buffer because maybe students might sign up at the last minute. So I tend to give a enough number there. And then also how many TAs or staff that you are going to have. And then submit this form. For this demo, I requested credit last Wednesday, and I was able to get the credits yesterday. So it generally takes less than a week. And students will get $50 credits. Faculty and TA gets $100 credits. And you will get two separate email. One is for faculty and TA. The other is for students. This is an example that you will get for your faculty and TA. It will give coupon code here that you can copy and paste. And the next one is for the students, and you can share the URL link with your students. And if students click that URL, it would look like this, that students need to enter their name and their email address. And they will receive an email that includes a coupon code that assigned to that student. And then I'm going to talk about how we can redeem GCP credit. Any questions so far?
One question, Diane, and this is, I think, one I asked you before the call started, is can you combine the $50 student credits into so if you had 10 students in your class, could you combine the $50 dollar credits into, say, one $500 credit for the classroom. So
Yeah, so students will receive a coupon code, and you can go to your billing account and then add the coupon onto the account. So technically, if students are doing a group project and then want to use a one-person account to have $100 instead of 50, that is a possibility as well.
great, thank you.
So now I'm going to talk about how you can redeem the credit. So again, once you get the email, it has this link, which is a console.cloud.google.com/education. So if you go to this link here, you can add your coupon code. Well, one thing that I want to make sure that you do is that choose an account. You can see here I'm currently logged in as a Diane MK Woodbridge@gmail, and then here has like a no project on there. You may want to make sure that students are logging into an account that they can remember, and same for yourself. Our students, they couldn't launch a GCP using their school email. Our school uses Google as a workspace provider, but our admin didn't allow to use a GCP on students' account. And if that's the case, ask them to log in with their personal account. Okay, so make sure you remember which account that you are going to use for your GCP credit. So this is in my case, I created a new account, and then I'm going to add my name. And then you can select the project. Project is the one that I just mentioned, which is that every components that you're going to use will be assigned to a project. It can have a default project, but I tend to like to have a project dedicated to each class here. So here, Databricks demo. And then you can create. And then I'm going to copy the coupon code that I got. And then add the coupon code on the tab. And then do accept and continue. And this will create a billing account for you. Let me refresh this. If I choose this Databricks account, and then if I go to credits, then you can see that I have this credit called using cloud to teach Databricks, because I request credit under this name. And you can see I have $100. So this is my billing that I have $100 here. Any questions so far? And students will also have to follow this step to get a $50 credit, and they'll assign to their project here. So again, make sure that you choose the account for your GCP account that you're going to do, and then maybe create and assign to a project. Okay.
So you can, just to make sure I understand it, you can have one project and then each student assign their credits to that one project?
Yeah, and billing can be also be the cross project level as well. But once you apply you will see if you go to your GCP's billing account and then credits, you will see there is like $50 for students in this case, or $100 for the teacher and staff.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just excited to see this.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for 4 years, so this is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. And just a side note, if you create the GCP for the first time, they give a $300 credit for the first month. So if your class is going for over 4 weeks, which is typical, then maybe you can ask the students to use that $300 credit first, because they can always use the remaining like $50 credit for a year. So I would suggest to them to use that credit first.
Great.
Yeah. And then now I'm going to talk about how we can launch Databricks on GCP. Here I will circle back to Rob through email that the one of the link on Databricks is broken, but with this demo, I found the correct URI to redeem or subscribe the Databricks service. So I will just share that with you. I think it is just one of the error on the website, but it has been working greatly. But yesterday I found that it was slightly broken. One thing that I want to mention is that I found that each workspace, if you are not using the community version, is handled differently. So by default, I found that the accounts.databricks.com is going to take you to AWS. But in our case, we're using GCP. So how you can log in is accounts.gcp.databricks.com to access your workspace that launched on the GCP. And same thing, I found that Azure has their own URI. So if you have an account through the accounts.databricks.com, that is different from your GCP account. So just keep that in mind. First thing that you need to do is the subscribe Databricks, which is, if you click the link here, again, it is going to give you a Databricks marketplace link. I will again switch my link for the demo purpose. Account, which is I just created, which is the diane.databricks.gcp2. And then again, I will choose the project, which is a Databricks demo, and then subscribe it. Again, we have a 14-day trial as well, so they'll be helpful for me. And here it requires a billing account. So earlier I got redeemed the credit, so you can just choose a billing account for education, which is the account that automatically created when I redeem the education credit. And then you click set account. And then you can configure here if needed to. And then click for the terms and services and subscribe it. And then sign up with Databricks. And then here you need to add your organization name. Then I will sign in with my Google account. So this is an account that I just used to apply the credits. Okay. So
one quick question. At the top, it said, start an account with $300 of credits. Don't worry, you won't be charged if you run out of credits. I like that. What does that mean? It means that, what do you know?
Yeah, that happened to me before. That like I when you go to the account, it says that, oh, you didn't like, I can facilitate this $300 credit without a billing account. And then one time, I guess I forgot to kill all the process that I created, and then I went back, and then it had a balance that I am supposed maybe pay, maybe not, but it didn't ask me to do anything else. So yeah, that was my experience. But if it is out of the credit, it doesn't really ask you to provide extra, I guess, a credit card information. But at one point, you may need to.
Okay. It's nice to have a little bit of backup. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I refresh this screen, and then you can click that button here to go to your account, which is like accounts.gcp.databricks.com. And then you can sign in with the account that you just created and click. And then here, it used to have a free version, but it's gone. But I will choose this premium version. And now this might be the same screen that you see on your AWS or Azure. So from here, everything is the same. That we need to create a workspace. So maybe I will go over that. So workspace is environment that your Databricks project stays. So I will create a workspace. Here I will name here, and then I will go and one thing that you may want to check, sorry, I will close this tab because it's in a wrong project, is that if you're looking at this here as like your project tab, you see this like a ID here. So I'm going to copy this ID because this is necessary for creating a workspace. So here, Google Cloud Project ID. Then I will put I believe mine was US West. I'm going to choose US West 1, but you can choose whichever you want. And then I'm going to save. Then choose account. And then it is creating the workspace. This will take several minutes. If it takes longer, I can switch account to move forward for this demo. So now you have this workspace created. And once it is done finishing, like provisioning and creating, you will have a little tab saying open. So I have a little screenshot here. That if you click this open tab, then you're going to go to this Databricks workspace page here. And as we all know, workspace is where your notebook stays. Compute is where your computing resources are dedicated. Rob, this is like everyone, can I assume they're familiar with this setting?
They should be. It's a standard Databricks interface. So I was just logged into my own GCP Databricks account, and it looks identical. So
yeah. So now you can then create your notebook, and then maybe choose which computing resources that you'd like to use. Sometimes now our students like to use a GPU cluster on Databricks, so you can configure those. And once you are done, you can go to your workspace and delete. Then Databricks, thankfully, will take care of everything, delete all the components that they launched on GCP. And for me is that since I take care of everything under a project level, so let me share my screen again. Sorry for the so many tabs here. So here, if I go to admin tab, that there is a setting that I can shut down the whole project. That will get rid of everything that I created. For example, the one example that I want to show you is going to take the data from a bucket object store and load that onto Databricks, and I want to pre-process and then visualize it. But if I shut it down, then not only the Databricks related resources, which might be already gone, but also the bucket and all the elements or policies will be gone as well. So in the project management setup, I found that that is really handy. I'm not sure that how other people had an issue with AWS. I had every year students comment like, I forgot to turn off this instance. And after the winter break, now I have a $600 bill. What should I do? And I sometimes felt like they are asking me to pay or department to pay it, but I always route them to the customer service because they are pretty generous. But with GCP, I found that that happens way less because once you terminate your project, then there shouldn't be any leakage there.
That's a good late December or late May practice. Just make sure it's gone.
Right? Yeah. So
is there a way to restore that project, and what is the retention period for that?
For me, my practice has been, although I believe you can set up the I guess the retention on the GCP, but at the same time, I make sure my students, when they're done with their project, download their, I guess, a project so that they can keep those, or at least, sorry, that I'm in the wrong directory, but or not killing the Databricks for now might be another option, because the Databricks, if you set it up correctly on the compute, I found that the charge has been very minimal. I set it as a 60-minute that it terminate the cluster, because I found that the notebook charges are I don't know whether even it charges it or maybe if it charges very little. Does that answer your question?
Well, I guess if a student has a longer term project, would they be able to mothball their Databricks workspace and GCP project over to the summer quarter, what have you?
Oh, good question. So it might be something related to, depending on the project, I would say, because if you are terminating the project whole, then I don't think you can recover that. But let's say I used the Airflow on the Google, and then the charges was big. So I was able to, by looking at the billing, was able to find, okay, the Airflow charges a lot. So I paused it or terminated it so that I don't need to pay too much while it is not necessary. So that has been my experience, but I bet there will be a way around that you can perhaps set a retention period, or maybe separate into a multiple project where certain things has to always run and kept, for example, data, whereas the other portion If it is like not as much necessary or high priority, then you might be able to set it on a separate project and connect them together, because there is something called service account that you can connect the two different projects together. So if you kill the low priority project, which might eat up resources a lot, but it's not as necessary, then perhaps you can terminate that over the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so that was brief, I guess, step-by-step instruction. Let me then show you one of my project that I created. Oh, let me log out and log in. So one of the reasons that I wanted to show this demo is that I wanted to show how you can easily connect the other GCP elements with your project. So here I have a computing resource going on. I'm going to launch this. But there is a configuration that you can do. For example, as we all know, you can add a libraries. In my case, I installed GeoPy and Pandas at Plotly. Here, if you hit advanced option, it has something called Google Service Account. This is something that you can link with your project to the Databricks more easily, so that not only the resources that Databricks are using, such as the compute instances. In my demo, I am trying to read the data from my Google storage and then load that and then pre-process it for visualization. So to do so, I'm going to go back to my GCP tab. And here I have, I'm still in the IAM and admin. And you can see here under the IAM and admin, there's a service accounts. And if I hit service accounts, I can create a service account here. And you can name your service account, Databricks. And it will create a Databricks at Databricks demo 440117 IAM something something as a service account. And then you can create and continue. And this is something that give the permission for the service account. So if I want to have a service account for loading the data from the bucket, then I can have a storage manager, admin. Storage admin. Here we go. And then I can select it. If you want to add more role, you can add it, because GCP has so many components, but I'm in this case giving sorry, storage failed to add project role. Oh, maybe because I already created something previously. So here you can add it and then create this service account. And again, this is something that you can just copy and paste it into your the service account under your advanced option. So in my case, before starting this demo, I created a bucket, which is similar to S3 bucket, and added this service account information. Then the beauty here is that I don't need to add like credentials such as like ID and password for the accessing the resources as you need to do with the AWS. So it has a more seamless connection through it. So here's the notebook that I created. Again, I share guide and the URL for this code. I put it on my GitHub and you can access it if you want to. So still my cluster is not ready yet, but let me show you the output that I got here. Since I installed Pandas, NumPy, GeoPy, Plotly, the code worked fine. And then here is one piece of code that I like the most is that I can simply give a GS : / the URI of my bucket. I didn't do any other configuration for accessing the data in my GCP. And it loads all those data here. And in my
Diane, that's because you set up that service account to access the bucket.
yeah.
We can just reference it. Oh,
Yeah, that did everything because it was under my account and under my project. So it was able to load the data because with the AWS, like I had to, if I remember correctly, like I had to configure something with a provider key and secret key as well. So and then sometimes there's certain things like I had to even provide a jar file or install the jar file through the Maven on the compute. But in this case, I didn't have to install anything. Only one thing that I had to do is to connect with the service account. So the project here that I'm doing is that loading the data, which is a Bing search in 2021. And then I want to see the number of searches by the day of the week and also by the country, and then their ranking and how many times certain keywords had appeared for the search. So I was able to pre-process the data loaded from the Bing search account. And then in this case, I used the Plotly by showing the date and then count so they can generate an interactive diagram here. And similar thing that I did, it was like daily count per country. And all the codes are just like Spark code. And then same thing for the visualizing it by the country, what was the most frequent keyword came out during that time period. So my take on from using the GCP, again, getting the credit was much easier than AWS. My experience with Azure is that Azure even doesn't have a free education credits when I checked the last time 2-3 years ago. So I had option with AWS and GCP, but AWS, again, getting credits has been really difficult. GCP was much easier in redeeming, and even distributing to the students has been so easy. And then launch with the Databricks and connect with other components on GCP has been so easy. So it has been an easier experience for teaching and managing the course. So that has been my experience, and wanted to share how you can get the credits, how you can redeem it. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Diane, sorry I was a little late. I had a meeting at the beginning of this. My question, what I like about the previous AWS credits we had, and whether we do it in Google Cloud or Azure, AWS, was that we could have a full team all in the same space working together. With these Google Cloud credits, can they all be in the same space together, or do they have to have their own little Databricks running?
Oh, they can be on the same workspace as the same way as before. You can add a team members on the workspace, and then just like the only thing is that you have to give that credit that you got through the GCP. You might have to give to one person. So maybe let's say they give a $50 per student, and if students are doing a group project, you might want to ask them to like, okay, maybe 6 of you give the credit to like Jay, and then Jay will take care of all those credits on their accounts. So that would be the way to go. But
Jay, she went through
Yeah, I'm sure I
like,
missed
on
it.
the recording, like the first 10 minutes. And if you set up a project, which is essentially a workspace, you
Yeah.
can aggregate, you can add individual credits to one project, which
Oh, great.
is the holy grail that we've been looking for in these credits. I did a quick check on Azure. Azure does give $100 credits to students, but they're time limited and they can't aggregate, at least.
The aggregate is the thing that I was been trying to work out.
Yeah,
And-
this to me is a beautiful solution with the aggregation.
Yeah, looks like I moved from AWS back to Azure, and now I'm gonna move to Google.
yeah, and I love Google that everything is under project level. So if you delete that project, whatever that, like, I remember AWS has just like a something service, like security service and the whatever, or the dedicated IP, they're all charges. And I was like, I don't know what this IP is related to which project. So I had to like backtrack so many things to delete. But for GCP, if you delete a project, then it wipes out everything. So I can just forget about the charges for class project.
And then the students, you said 50, is that just an example, or is they get a $50 credit for each semester, each month, each week?
Per class.
Per class.
Yeah. But when I talked to their rep last time, if I'm short on the credit, I can retest them.
Okay.
So then they will give more credits.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. So these, it's been recorded. I'm sure, Rob, it'll get posted in the Slack space. And then Diana, are you okay if we reach out and ask you questions? If we,
Of course.
Okay.
Of
Yeah.
course, that would be my pleasure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? I think this. I was just laughing, Jay, because you will have had experience with teaching Databricks on every public cloud vendor.
Yeah.
No vendor lock-in. That was a joke. It's a great leap forward, I think, in how Google has streamlined this process, both in terms of aggregating credits and then also referencing the buckets with the service account. So thank you, Diane. All right, I will. I'll post this on the LinkedIn account and the Slack channel once the recording's been uploaded. And everybody, if there's no other questions, have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.